And so the next day we went back into the studio. We recorded 5 songs, out of which Levitating was one. And Levitating took a life of its own, and it brought so many interesting people into my life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jaipur Bytes, the official podcast of the Jaipur Literature Festival. This is Season 2. We are at the VFS Global Friend of the Festival Lounge. I'm with the magnificent Hrishi, and we are on this beautiful furniture courtesy of Gulmohar Lane. Hrishi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor.
Thank you. So, Hrishi, before we go into this digital world wherein you have quite literally taken people by storm with your fusion of Carnatic with pop music, especially with some very fun music videos that we will come to, I want to go back to your roots a bit. Where was it that you knew music was your calling?
So when I grew up, my father, his name is Balaji, he used to sing around the house constantly. He would sing South Indian film songs for the most part, as well as South Indian classical music as well. So I grew up hearing that always around the house, whether he was cooking, whether he was taking me to classes, there was always music. And so that bug caught me as well very early on. Initially, I was very enamored by the idea of being in a rock band when I was in middle school, later on doing cover bands. And all along, I learned Indian classical music. And it took a totally different avatar for me once I developed as a musician more.
And when did you start your training in Carnatic music?
My initial training started when I was 6 to 10 years old. And that was the phase where my parents were the ones who really pushed me to learn. And I wanted no part of it. I thought this is not cool because I grew up in America where most of everybody else in class was not Indian. And so there was this like dual culture idea of wanting to fit in to another culture where those kids didn't recognize Indian culture as being cool. Later on, when I was a bit older, I started to get back into it of my own accord, and I began learning from my guru, Sri Surya Prakash. That was about 11 years ago, and it was such a blessing to learn from a master of an Indian classical form. And so not only was I taught certain songs, but I could see him performing them in concert at the highest level, and I was just like stars in my eyes constantly. And so that eventually over a decade, transpired into me doing similar music, me fusing Carnatic music with the English music I grew up with. And now it's got me here, which is incredible.
Did you feel a sense of reclaiming your identity while growing up in school? Because you're talking about how this idea of also harking on and claiming American culture while also being exposed to this wonderful world of verse and music. Did you feel that you were, as time went by and as you understood music more, it brought you closer to yourself and even more confident about yourself?
For sure. For the longest time, I kept the world separate because Indian classical music is an ocean. It's so beautiful. And it was a world that I engaged in, but I didn't bring it to my other friends, outside of the Indian community. When I started to post content that fused these two, it was really like an experiment. I was wondering what will happen with no preconceived notions. And what I saw was that the outside world took to it, like beyond anything I would have ever expected. And it's silly thinking back because our music, of course, it'll be taken by the entire world, right? But something about putting it next to something that was familiar to faces that had not heard it before allowed them to access it. And it reminded me, wow, like it allowed me to dive even deeper into our own culture to try to find the gems that can now be presented again to the wider world who maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to access it in the same way.
Yes, but before you began your journey of content online, did you perform in school?
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you ever perform Carnatic music to these American students?
I didn't perform Carnatic music to American students too often. There might have been a couple, like my best friends, they came to my Arangetram. For the most part, I did like musical theater. I did some Western voice. I did shows where I sang covers in English. It was post the internet that I got the confidence to share Carnatic music with more of a white crowd. And since then, it's been incredible.
So when was it that you decided that you're going to bring your music online? And just for context to everybody, Hrishi will be performing at the end too, so you'll get a glimpse of his fabulous voice. But Hrishi is known online for melding Western pop with Carnatic music, and he does these fabulous covers, including, you would have heard of Dua Lipa's song "Levitating," which was a beautiful rendition and music video, by the way, very fresh. When did you decide to do it? When did you decide to start?
Yeah, it was not something that was super pre-planned. When I posted the first Carnatic Swara remix, it was kind of an idea that I just had off the cuff, and I told a friend of mine who was helping me make content, and I said, do you think it'd be cool if I just went into Swaras after this hook? It was a song called Astronaut in the Ocean, which was going very viral at the time. So I posted that, and when I posted it, it was the first time, like usually I was used to getting like 200 views, right? When I was just posting English stuff before, and it was like by lunchtime there was 50,000 views, and it was the first time I experienced that. And so the next day we went back into the studio, we recorded 5 songs, out of which Levitating was one. And Levitating took a life of its own, and it brought so many interesting people into my life from that point. We made the music video, we made a full version, and many more songs. But that's kind of how it started.
But because to meld into a different cultural context and different sorts of musical styles, you've obviously been consuming music from all across the world since you were young. You said that you started with rock. What were some of your earliest rock impressions and then pop impressions?
Yeah, for sure. Bon Jovi was one. That was really big when I was young. Like the guitar solos were crazy. I was a big Nickelback fan. Those were probably 2 of the big ones. Queen as well. And then pop music, I was really, really into Maroon 5, Coldplay, all-time favorite. One Republic, for artists that really like looked into their lyrics. One Republic especially, lyrics that are so universal and grand and uplifting. And that became something that I was really interested in figuring out how to craft, like uplifting messaging in music. Because one thing that's everywhere in Indian classical music and Indian traditions is healing music. The idea that music is healing and a pathway to the divine. This is there sometimes in contemporary musical forms, and sometimes it's not. And so there's this interesting challenge of how to mix these 2 worlds. And that's a new passion of mine.
I'm glad that you mentioned the very inherent idea in Indian music of it leading somewhere that is beyond us and therefore connecting us with a reality that we perhaps don't understand, yet it stirs something inside us and moves us. But it also makes me think that isn't music as a whole, whether be it Indian music or you bringing in Hindustani music and Carnatic music with these Western lyrics, it moves something inside us because music goes beyond language. It goes beyond the lyrical world. Do you find that power in music to bring people together? And I'm especially asking you this is because you work on a digital landscape where immediately you see so many people watching your videos, resharing them, posting them all around. But have you found something inherently sacred about this, that this has the power to bring us all, the arts as a whole?
The arts, you're
as a whole, but music especially, your music.
Of course, I think music is like water. It's something that we need for our consciousness, for our humanity, for us to process our own thoughts. And it's something that we can consume on a blank slate. We can close our eyes and be transported to a new world, whether it's an escape into ourselves or an escape into another place, right? And I think it's so fundamental to the human condition to have music that aligns with where we are and where we want to go.
That's beautiful. Before I ask you to give us a glimpse of your voice, I do want to ask you, what's that, because we've been asking this to the chefs, what's that one food that you go back to, which is your soul food? But I want to ask you about music. What's that one song that you will always return to when you want to just feel yourself again?
Wow. What a beautiful question. This is a song I heard not in my childhood. There's songs like that from my childhood, but it's a song I heard in my developing years as a musician. It's called Allah Tero Naam. And something about the way that the melody of that song mixes with the words and this meaning and this universality of human experience and religions that unite us and divide us at times, but always come back to source, makes me think of that song as a grounding force for me.
How beautiful. Thank you, Hrishi. Now, may I request you to give us a bit of your voice?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
So, okay. Naste janapali nalina kanti Nate janapali nalina kanti Navarasa kalarasike angike Nate janapali ನಳಿನ ಕಾಂತಿ ನವರಸ ಕಲಾರಸಿಕೆ ಓವಿಕೆ ನತ ಜನಪದಿ ನಳಿನ ಕಾಂತಿ
Thank you so much, Hrishi. Thank you.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, you absolutely cannot miss out on Hrishi's performance this evening at the Jaipur Music Stage. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you to all of our viewers at Jaipur Bytes for being a part of this episode. Thank you once again, Hrishi.
Thank you so much.